Welcome back to Law and Crime, everybody. I'm Jesse Weber, and thanks for joining us. This Friday, December 14th, will mark the 6-year mark for the Sandy Hook Elementary School massacre. 6 years. And we all know that it claimed the lives of 28 people, including 20 children and 6 educators. In the years after the shooting, a national nonprofit organization known as Sandy Hook Promise was created by the family members of loved ones who were killed that day. This organization's mission is to make sure that events like this never happen again by educating and informing the public about potential warning signs in individuals. With the help of some big-time heavyweights right now from Hollywood, Sandy Hook Promise is about to release a new PSA shedding more light on this growing problem. Take a look.
Dang, bro, I'm so late. Yeah, I'm late to class, man. Thinking about who I was gonna vote for, probably Drew. Jasmine. No, bro, she's fake. She's fake.
President, here you go. Thank you. Hi, guys. We're coming for class president. Hi, ladies. I'm not voting for this. Can you believe this? Hi, ladies.
This is my fault. Someone wrote dead man on my poster. Dude. Is Sherlock right?
Just leave me alone.
You're not voting for your ex-boyfriend.
Here you go. Thank you. Hi, guys. Vote for me for class president.
Your principal speaking. Don't forget, cast your vote today.
All right, come on, guys. Gym class ended 5 minutes ago. Let's go.
Yo, stupid freak!
Look at me!
Wow. Joining us now is Nicole Hockley. She's the co-founder of Sandy Hook Promise, and she too is a victim of this tragedy. She lost her 6-year-old son, Dylan, 6 years ago. Ms. Hockley, thank you so much for joining us here on Law and Crime.
Thank you, Jesse.
I want to start with Sandy Hook Promise. Can you explain a little bit more about how it was formed initially and what its main mission is today?
It started off by being formed by members from our community just about 48 hours after the shooting, and then different family members, such as myself, became involved around Christmas, and then we launched. I helped launch the organization 1 month after the shooting, and have been on this mission ever since.
And the mission is basically to create an awareness, both in the minds of educators, people in schools, parents, for warning signs, correct?
Absolutely.
What are those warning signs?
There are a myriad of warning signs, a real spectrum, everything from someone who is chronically socially isolated or either pushed out or they withdraw themselves or they can't manage their emotions and anger. They don't have conflict resolution skills. They overreact to something seemingly small. They can also have an obsession with firearms or weapons, study other shootings, and try to emulate someone that they see as a hero in their eyes.
So if people see this kind of behavior, I know a lot of the people might be thinking, well, how do I know it's a serious issue, and how do I don't want to just prejudge somebody. So what is the path there? What would you recommend for people who might be seeing this kind of behavior in an individual?
Well, it's very important to know that there's no way to profile who is going to become a school shooter or a shooter in general. This leakage, though, is something that we can keep an eye on. And if you feel something is wrong, if someone's doing a very overt threat, as we saw in the PSA with a social media post saying, you'll all be sorry tomorrow, or if they have suicidal ideation and they're saying you'll be better off without me, or giving away their personal belongings, for example, those are things to take seriously. But it's also the accumulation of more subtle signs, such as someone who's constantly bullying, such as someone who has firearms throughout their locker, as we saw in the PSA. These other things that can say they're not going to become a shooter, but it's someone who might need some help. So if you feel it in your gut that something's wrong, we're teaching kids, teachers, adults, how to say something and speak out to get that person help before a tragedy escalates.
And how do they see something? Who should they go to first?
Well, you can always go to a trusted adult, that's for sure. If something is imminent, if you think danger is about to happen, you absolutely have to call 911. But otherwise, speak to someone in your school, speak to your principal, speak to your school counselor, speak to your mom or dad, speak to each other. Or you can use systems like we have at Sandy Hook Promise, the Say Something Anonymous reporting system that we provide for free across the country.
You know, one of the things that we keep asking is, why does this keep happening? Why does this keep happening in school environments? What do you think it's about that school environment that we see this so much?
Well, you know, schools, middle schools and high schools in particular, are one of the safest places to be in a community, even though this year has been on record as the worst for school gun violence since 2011, when these records started to be taken. But this is where we're seeing a lot of these behaviors start to manifest, a lot of these at-risk behaviors, whether it's violence or self-harm, bullying, substance abuse, dating violence. Schools are like a petri dish of behaviors. So this is the prime opportunity to help identify who needs additional support and intervention and get them the intervention they need.
Would you say one of the biggest things to help is to always speak to your children as much as possible and ask them questions about their day and make sure that you can understand what's happening? Because I know a lot of times it's hard for people to open up, especially young kids.
Yeah.
It's tricky, isn't it?
It can be very tricky, and we know a lot of times we say to the kids, you know, talk to a trusted adult, talk to your parent, for example. Some kids don't have trusted adults, and some kids are really fearful of anonymity, not because they're nervous about snitching, but because they think, well, if someone's putting it out there, they're not really serious anyway, they're just seeking attention. We need to teach our kids through parenting, through teaching, how to take everything seriously, because this is how our kids are communicating, especially on social media.
This PSA is extremely powerful. So how did this get made? I know that you had the help of some real big timers there in Hollywood helping. You can tell by the production quality and the acting. How did this get made?
Well, each year around the Remembrance Time, we launch another PSA from a different perspective. And this year, we were very honored to have Rupert Sanders, a Hollywood director, say, I really want to be involved in this project. This is important to me. And a phenomenal team behind him, production team, the wardrobe team. I mean, these are some names that are well known in the industry who said, I want to lend my voice to help make this story real because the message is so important and we want it to get out there.
Where do you want people to see this? What do you want them to get from this when somebody watches this? And I'm not sure how the different ways that people first can see this PSA.
We've got a lot of digital activity going on, so you can go to YouTube, you can go to our website, sandyhookpromise.org, and then also you can go after watching the PSA to learn what are the signs that were in this commercial that I missed, and how can I learn them, and how can I bring the free training to my school or district so that no one ever misses the signs again.
I'll tell you what, even if you didn't know anything about it, it captures you immediately. Mm-hmm. So from that perspective, can you tell us what are some of the signs as we watch this video about what's about to happen?
Well, we're definitely seeing the would-be shooter being ignored by both the Jasmine, our character who is trying to get votes for school president. We see that this shooting he has written on the poster of one of the other candidates. He's put out a social media post. The janitor opens his locker, and we see guns and firearms obsession within his locker. We see some bullying in the locker room with the boys after gym class. We see social isolation where he's sitting in the cafeteria by himself, and again, Jasmine's not even bothering to give him a vote for me leaflet. All of these signs, and the bottle throwing as well, where someone's calling him stupid freak and the girl mouthing loser at him. All of these accumulate into that anger, and if someone then doesn't have the skills to manage that anger and they have easy access to weapons, you have a recipe for tragedy.
It's just, you see this happen so much across the country, this kind of behavior. And I have to ask you, as you said, this has been a really tough year. What was your reaction when Parkland came about?
Parkland, every school shooting in particular takes me right back to the day that my son was murdered. Parkland, I flew down the day after, spent some time in the community there, have built some relationships with different people. I had no idea how re-traumatizing it was going to be because flashbacks were coming back to me that I didn't even realize I'd forgotten. Being outside with all the media cameras, being outside the crisis center, the hospital, it was incredibly overwhelming. Positive afterwards in terms of what that community did and how the student leaders really gave voice to youth across the country, but in the moment it was very traumatizing and made me very ill.
I can't imagine. I really can't imagine. And as we come up to, I can't believe we're talking 6 years, I do want to talk a little bit about your son, Dylan. I can only imagine how difficult this week has been for you, and as well as the last 6 years. What has this been like for you, the past 6 years since this happened?
It's certainly not the life that I ever anticipated for myself. I had a very happy family, a good marriage, 2 wonderful sons, and my surviving son, who's now 14, is doing well. But this is, gun violence isn't something I ever thought would happen to me. And I'm like a lot of people out there who say that, and I just miss Dylan every single day. I've still got his urn in my bedroom, and I kiss it every morning and every night.
Well, I think we can all say that he'd be very proud of you and the work that you're doing. I mean, this is a terrific organization, and I know it's creating a voice throughout the country. In fact, you visited the White House, correct, to make this more aware. And when Parkland happened, we were watching President Donald Trump having these meetings and having a conversation that I don't know if I've ever seen before. Can you tell us a little bit about what that's been like?
Yeah, it was quite an honor. I mean, we're a non-political organization, so we worked very well with the Obama administration. We're working very well with the Trump administration, because at the end of the day, this is about the common ground of keeping kids safe. It's not a political fight. This is something that we can all agree on. And being at the White House in March after Parkland, with the Trump administration and Vice President Pence, and listening to them listen to us and ask questions about, well, what can be done, what are the possible solutions. And some of the solutions that were put out there we don't quite agree with. I'm not a fan of arming teachers, for example, but prevention, upstream violence prevention, helping someone in those days, weeks, months, years before they pick up a firearm to hurt someone or themselves. That's something we can take action on. Do
you see legitimate steps being made? I know you've been instrumental in trying to get past the Stop School Violence Act.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes. Sandy Hook Promise drafted that legislation last year, and it was passed this year, and that provides over $100 million federal funding to schools across the country for violence prevention programs and anonymous reporting systems, very, very similar to what Sandy Hook Promise provides free of charge.
How's that going? Are we going to see a passage, or what's happening?
It's passed, and it's being enacted right now. And to date, we have already trained over 5.5 million youth and adults across the country in over 10,000 schools. We're growing fast because this is something that works. Schools want it, schools need it, and it's saving lives.
Where do you hope to see the next 10 years? I mean, we're talking 6 years since Sandy Hook. Where do you hope to see our country change in 10 years?
I want to see us all know that we can prevent these things. I want to see the numbers go down. Honestly, I want to put my organization out of business. I don't want us to exist because I don't want to have this need anymore. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think we need more people to engage in this issue and know that they have a personal way to be involved in preventing violence before it happens.
And everybody can see the PSA and more information on
sandyhookpromise.org.
Well, I have to tell you, on behalf of myself and everyone here on Law and Crime, first of all, we are so sorry for your loss and everything that you've had to go through with you and your family. It is an honor to have you here and speak a little bit more about it. And thank you for showing the PSA on our network so everyone can see. We really do wish you and your organization the best of luck, and I hope that everyone visits and learns a little bit more, because you are doing something so impactful and so important, especially, as you said, when we're in a time where everybody's so divided. You're a non-political organization that can go right down the middle and focus on this important issue. So I must tell you, it has been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Really, thank you. Okay, everybody, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to focus more on our live trials. So stay tuned here on Law and Crime.